Well, good morning.
Good morning.
If you don't mind, introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are. Tell us a little bit about your background.
My background. I'm Lindsey. I grew up in church at Baptist Church, actually this church. I was born in Wisconsin, grew up in Little Sandusky and Upper Sandusky, and then for my high school years I went to Wisconsin. So I've been a little bit around everywhere.
Okay. So tell us about your testimony. Tell us about how you come to this point in your relationship with the Lord.
Well, I've battled with depression and anxiety my entire life, up until this point. I had a brutal addiction to self-harm. It landed me in the hospital a couple times. I tried to attempt suicide. I was bullied a lot in school, so I took that with me. I was told not to use my voice, which is why it takes me a little bit to talk to people. So that kind of brought me to where I am. God's brought me out of my comfort zone a lot. I had a mental breakdown at 23 years old. I was housebound for a few months, and anxiety just crippled me. And I couldn't move, I couldn't go anywhere without my mom. And the burden that puts on a parent is, knowing that your child is a grown adult and she can't leave the house. I had to know where she was at every moment. I clung to what was the closest thing to me that I knew wasn't going to leave me. At that point, I was a Christian. I said I was saved. In the midst of saying I was saved, I was still battling addiction. I was trying to hide it, thinking that I couldn't ask for help because people think that Christians don't need help. And we live in a world where it's scary to admit when you need help and when you have anxiety or depression. I had tried to commit suicide. I ran out in front of a car. And then that was my turning point of that I needed help. I got help. I started getting clean October of 2014. And then April of 2015, I moved back here to Ohio and fully surrendered to God. Just gave him everything. And I'm 11 years clean, 10 years saved, and I haven't looked back.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Tell us about, you talked about being delivered from anxiety and depression and things. What was the turning point? How did you make that breakthrough?
It was definitely a process. It wasn't an instant thing. I really had to read. I know for me, just sitting with music is one of those things that, you have to get your mind focused to the point where you can focus on other things other than, I'll use an example, like, at work it's very stressful. And that was one of my major anxieties. I would have a lot of anxiety attacks at work. Now I can refocus on God. I had to do the work to the point where I ran to him instead of, flipping out. And I use the word flipping out because that's what I would do. You cry, for me sometimes, I couldn't move. So now it's just, the turning point was just saying, okay, God, I can't do this anymore. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going backwards. And I didn't want to live that life anymore. I don't know if that answers the question.
That does answer the question. So if you were talking to somebody today that maybe has traveled down a similar road that you've traveled down, and you could give them advice, how do you get to the point for them where you're at today versus when you were like they are, when you were in a situation where you were struggling and fighting to get to the point that you are today? What advice would you have for them?
I don't know. I mean, you just got to keep fighting. Just keep taking it one day at a time. When you're in it, it seems impossible. But, if you just make it to one more day, and don't give up, and to realize that you can ask for help. It's okay to not be okay, but just don't stay there. Like God does,
That's good.
he loves them. He loves us all, and to just to keep pushing, because on the days that I did give up, God allowed me to see another day, and I don't take it for granted. And I don't want to see anybody, if I could give somebody advice and hopefully to stop them to get to the point where I was at, just make them realize that, God's right there. And I know it's hard to see in those moments.
Okay. And then I know that you attend church here regularly. Tell me why you think that that's so important in your relationship with God, because we live in a time where a lot of people think I can get everything on social media, which social media is great, but it doesn't replace being in the house of the Lord, the fellowship you get from other Christians, the interaction. How important is it to you, and why?
To me it's important because I have lived on the side of both. I was out of church for quite a while, and if you're not in the house of God, worshiping with people, getting that prayer time and the preaching, it's just different than online. I don't feel as fed. Outside of church, you can. It's good, but it's good to be in a place where you're surrounded by those that are like-minded, even though no church is perfect, because you're never going to find it. You still need that time. It's very, very important, because like I said, I've been in that position where I wasn't in church, and I know how easy it is to go backwards and to stray if you're not.
And then, is there a certain scripture or a certain song that you cling to that helps you through the tough days?
James 4:7. I really like that one. Submitting to God, and the devil's gonna flee from you. And 1 Peter 5:7. Casting all your care upon him. Knowing that whatever I have in my life, he's got it. And there's a lot of songs, but one of my favorites, it's God in the Valley. I know that's an old one, but and what's it called? Who You Say I Am. I really like that one. It's a reminder that when I'm down and I do get those moments where Satan's trying to take me back, I'm just reminded that I am who God says I am, and he set me free, and I'm free indeed.
Absolutely. Why don't you take this last minute and just look towards the camera, which I know you don't really want to do, but what would you say to somebody that's going through a similar struggle than you had? What encouraging word would you leave them with today?
That God does really love you. He is actually there despite what the world says, and there is a life outside of anxiety and depression and addiction. Despite what anybody says, there is deliverance. Some days you are going to battle, you're not going to have it all together, but you just got to keep fighting through those days, because each day gets a little bit better. I still have anxiety every now and then, but I don't live in it, and it lasts for seconds instead of hours, and it happens few and far between. So just keep pushing and just keep running after God. And if you don't know God, I pray that that you will get to know him and not listen to what the world has to say of what he is.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time to share your testimony today. We appreciate it. I'm sure this will help people. Thank you.